Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Musicast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And before we get into the episode this week, we're going to revisit something we did a few episodes ago. And this is Joy's concert stories. Now, I understand that Joy has got a great concert story. I think I know what it's about, but over to you, Joy.
Okay, so it wasn't a concert that I necessarily attended, but it was a concert that I was near. So if you guys remember, I did that whole episode I did a whole story a few episodes ago about how I randomly walked to the lead singer of the band that I was just seeing, and that was Simple Plan. Well, me and my friend, we went to Roanoke, which is 40 minutes away, maybe 30 minutes away from where me and Tim live. Mm-hmm. And there is a local, it's a gay bar. I'm just going to say it. It is what it is. And we went in, we were having fun. We were just like, dancing the night away, whatever. And earlier that day, because my friend lives in Roanoke, I was at her apartment. We took her dogs to the dog park before we went out because their dogs needed to walk. Well, while I was sitting in the dog park, I heard Macho Man. And I was like, is that the Village People? Well, in Elmwood Park, which Tim's talked, I think, about on the podcast before, the Village People were opening for Casey and the Sunshine Band. Mm-hmm. Given there's only like one or two remaining Village People, I realized this. And then Casey and the Sunshine Band is one of those bands that they've swapped members 37 times. I know this. But the next day after I came home, we were chilling, whatever. I looked up on this place that I was at. I said, that is the gay bar. It's called The Park. It's a dance club. Apparently the Village People were there with me, dancing the night away. I did not know. The only members that I know, I think that the Bikers there was an original biker who was only there for years, but the biker is the one that's in the photo that I shared on my Facebook. He was in it in the early 70s. And then I don't know who else was there because I can't. Part of the picture was pictures from people that were like, the people from the bar. Mm-hmm. But it was just cool because I don't know of a better Pride story, because this month is Pride Month, than being with the Village People at a bar on a Saturday night. I can't think of a better story. I had no clue. They could have been standing right beside me and I wouldn't have known. But there you go.
Well, yeah, the thing is, I like the Village People, the classic Village People, those great disco songs that they came out with. I mean, I've seen the videos. I'm familiar with what the Village People look like. And when you shared that picture and you said they were the Village People, and I thought, is that the Village People?
I think the only one in that picture that was one of the Village People was the one with the goatee, and he's the biker. Look back when you see it, the tall guy. The rest of them, I think, were members of the staff from the bar. Does that make sense? Because when I was reading through the comments, I'm trying to identify. I'm like, who the heck are these people? Because I know, like, the old school biker that wore the leather, his name was Glenn, and he passed away from cancer. But he was filled in, but he was very young when he passed away. And one of the original, so he was the original, but then there was shortly after. I know that's the guy. That was the one that was in the photo, but I have no clue if the rest of the Village People were there. But supposedly they were there that night, and that's cool. And then my friend Jennifer was like, well, why didn't they perform or something? I'm like, they probably didn't want to. They performed all day.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to places where bands are after I've played a gig, or, even I play in a band. Just because there's a band there doesn't necessarily mean I want to play or join in. The Village People are a vocal group. They perform. If they're going to a bar to chill out and just hang out with friends, the last thing they want to be doing is doing the YMCA when they're there.
But it was funny. Both my mom was like, my mom commented, I don't think those are the Village People either. I was like, I think this is one Village person in this photo. I have no clue. It was just a really cool thing to see. And I said, I don't know anything that's more Pride. And what was really cool about it, Tim, is I got to explain to one of my friends kind of the history and how symbolic they are to the LGBTQ plus community and that kind of stuff, because they didn't know. So that was cool too.
That is very cool.
That photo.
And what even makes it even cooler is that you didn't really know they were the Village People and they weren't even the original ones. And that makes the story even better.
It does. I wouldn't have known. I mean, I very well could have danced with one of them. I couldn't tell you.
You may have. I mean, who can say?
And I will say, this was one of my very first times remaining completely sober. I had one drink earlier that night. Through the entire night, because I've been working very hard for my health and things like that to stay away from alcohol. And it was a very interesting experience because come about 3 a.m., I realized how people look when the lights come on. And let's just say I was happy I wasn't one of them. That's not to say they weren't having fun and let them live. It's just a very humbling experience when you're on the other side of it.
There we go. Fantastic. Well, there we go. That was Joy's sort of concert story. Now, I do have a quick Ask Joy.
Okay.
This isn't a submission. This is from me. What is the deal with Charlie's beard or now lack of?
I don't know. So the night I went to this concert, he decided he wanted to cut his beard off. He cut his hair too.
Yeah, because, I mean, I see Charlie, so listeners, when we finish recording, I hit stop recording, and often Charlie will come on the Zoom call. So Joey lives around the corner from me, but it's easier to do it on Zoom for technical reasons. So Charlie will come on the screen. And as Joy has said, he's trying to morph himself into Jack Black. And he had this beard and his hair and the whole thing. And then the beard is gone. And the hair is trimmed.
So I know where the hair came from. He's complaining it's too hot because it's summer, Tim. This was his first summer with long hair, and he did not like it. But the beard, so I think his new person he's trying to... So have you ever seen Doctor Strange from Marvel? Benedict Cumberbatch plays him, right?
I'm familiar with the name, yeah.
He has a goatee like that. So Charlie was trying to go for Doctor Strange.
Okay.
That's what he told me. I don't know. I think he went through maybe a quarter life crisis. It's not quite a midlife crisis. But he decided he just wanted it. And he does that periodically. He'll grow it out, he'll shave it off. But this one specifically, I think it's because it's summer and he was getting too hot.
Okay. So purely a heat-related trimming of his foliage, as it were.
Yeah, he was whining. I say whining because it was his first summer with long hair. And as a woman, I'm like, get over it. But he was whining about how warm it was. So I think that's why.
Okay. Well, there we are. That concisely answers my question.
That and he wants to look like Doctor Strange. But that's a debate for another time.
There we go. Well, good deal. Well, I tell you what. I'm going to do a quick CD of the week before we get into the topic, and it is Joy's topic this week. Now, this one is very topical, though you will probably be listening to this a few weeks after the fact, so it might not be quite as topical.
Okay.
This week's CD of the week is Kate Bush, and it's the compilation album The Whole Story. Now, the reason that I've decided to feature Kate Bush this week, it's like the entire world woke up and discovered Kate Bush. Now, I know of Kate Bush. I've got a number of her albums. She's a fantastic singer. She's a fantastic songwriter. She's had hits throughout the years, grew up with her music, etc., etc. Our listener, Megan Osmond, is a massive fan of Kate Bush. You know, people love Kate Bush. However, it seems to be everyone collectively either didn't know of Kate Bush or forgot about her. But what happened is this Stranger Things Netflix series, which I must say I have not seen. But people
I've seen
tell
the
me
first season.
Yeah, I've not seen it because we don't have Netflix. But people watch it and have really enjoyed it. They feature the track Running Up That Hill in an episode or episodes. And then it's like the entire world went, what's this amazing, fabulous music? And then it's like the number one song streamed on Spotify, and NPR are doing articles about Kate Bush. And it's just weird.
That whole Stranger. So Charlie watched the first season, and me and him really, neither of us were like, it wasn't our thing. Like, we just weren't really into it. But it's based in the 80s. And, you know, it's like the kids or whatever. And something about every episode matches up with a D&D game, but I can't confirm that. But the soundtrack is really good. And that's one of the selling points of the TV show. That's playing on like this 80s thing, right? That's what they're going for. So that's why she comes into it. Just explaining why Kate Bush is now skyrocketing again.
Yeah, but maybe, I mean, she was big in the UK. And, you know, growing up, there was always Kate Bush songs. And also the song, it's Wuthering Heights, actually. Wuthering Heights is featured in I'm Alan Partridge when Alan Partridge comes into the Travel Tavern and sings it to Susan behind the desk. And it's been parodied off of that and things like that. So even outside of the fact she maybe hasn't had hits for a few years, certainly in the UK, people know who Kate Bush are.
I wouldn't say she's that large here. I mean, I do know who she is, but I do think she probably has a larger UK following. So maybe it's opening it up to the American market.
Maybe.
Stranger Things.
Well, I'm glad it is because, I mean, there's some really good music. And as I said, I have a number of her albums, but I decided to feature this sort of best of. I said you got Wuthering Heights, Cloud Busting, The Man with the Child in His Eyes, Hounds of Love, Running Up the Hill, of course, is on here. The Dreaming, Babushka. I mean, it's not on this album, but she also does a cover of Rocket Man, which is absolutely fantastic.
I've heard that before, too.
Yeah.
So, it is good.
So I would say to our listeners and viewers, if you're not familiar with Kate Bush, even if you just dip into the Kate Bush universe by getting the whole story compilation album, I do highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, I like her. I do think she was more popular in the UK. I think I found out about her probably later, but I definitely agree. Also, like, I have heard her version of Rocket Man, and it's great. So, yeah.
Well, there we are. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there we are. That's our CD of the week, and that's Kate Bush, The Whole Story.
And before Tim cuts this from YouTube, I'm sorry, everyone, I look like I'm melting. It's because I am. I have to turn the AC off, so don't judge my hair.
Joy, you're absolutely fine. You are amongst friends on this podcast, and even our YouTube viewers, you are amongst friends. So everything is
Fair
fine.
Enough. All right. So on to the episode.
Yes. So, Joy, as I said, it's your turn to pick the topic. So what do you have for us this week?
Well, this is going to be very topical. And Tim just said something that's going to lead into it. So yesterday, or maybe actually day before yesterday, was National Eyeglasses Day. And Tim just got new eyeglasses. They're on their way to his house.
Well, they're on their way to Clarity Eye Care, and I need to go and collect them. But yes, they are on their way. And they're not terribly different from the ones I have, but they're lighter and newer, and they have my new prescription in them.
So with that being said, and with a simple Google of weird holidays, I found out 2 days ago when I was trying to figure out what I want to do the episode on was National Eyeglass Day. I'm like, well, what can I do with that? So tonight's episode is going to feature musicians that wear glasses.
Ah, hooray!
So that's the very thin, loosely tying things. And me and Tim will talk about eyeglasses and probably how to rain wash your car or something. I don't know. We say weird stuff, but that's what tonight was. So that is what mine was. And some of these are going to be obvious. And I just picked a song by each artist that I thought we would know, we'd want to talk about. Some of them are loosely tied to bands, like the lead singer wears glasses. So
okay,
give me a break on that one. I ran out. I started looking and I'm like, okay, maybe there's not that many people who wear glasses. All right. So my first one is a very obvious artist that everyone can think because he has iconic glasses. It's Buddy Holly. Mm-hmm. And of course I picked Every Day because it's my favorite song by him.
Yeah, that's a very classic Buddy Holly song. One thing that struck me, I was listening to Buddy Holly the other day, and bearing in mind that it was recorded in the 50s and the technology was pretty primitive compared to what we have now. I mean, the equipment I'm recording this podcast on is 10,000 times more advanced than anything Buddy Holly had in the 50s.
Yeah.
But the quality of the sound is amazing. And like you listen like my car has got a really nice sound system. And I was listening to these tracks and they just sound so good. It's almost like Buddy Holly's in the room with you.
He does. He has that voice. That's what I was going to say. I started to cut him off, but I didn't need to. What is it in the background when it's going every day? What is it that almost sounds like a little bit of like a wind chime or something? There's a distinct kind of sound in the background of that song. And I can't figure out what it is. And it sounds so cool, but I don't know what it is.
I think it might be something like a washboard or some non-conventional percussion item. In the Buddy Holly story, have you seen that film, the 70s film?
Multiple times, yes.
Yeah. They go through the recording, and of course the name The Crickets comes from the fact that there's some crickets in the soundproofing in the room where they're recording. I think they cover it. I think it is something like a washboard or...
I need to go back and watch it then, because I was trying to figure it out, because like that's what makes it sound so cool, because it's got like this kind of na. But there's like something in it that almost sounds like a wind chime, or like you said, a washboard or something. I mean, it could be like a marimba or something, but I don't know.
It could be. It's something like that. And an interesting fact that my dad, when he was a much younger man, he used to have the same glasses as Buddy Holly because he was trying to look like Buddy Holly because he liked him so much.
And he doesn't know it, but those are back in style now.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. You know, like the big glasses are kind of back in style. Well, you know, it all goes full circle, but I love Buddy Holly's sound of his voice. I think he's got a beautiful tone to his voice. I've talked about it many times. Really good singers have this ability to almost not sound like they're singing, like they're kind of speaking to you because it's so fluid and so nice. His voice is gorgeous. And I know he wasn't part of the wall of sound, but he kind of meshes those lines. I think because the whole point of the wall of sound is like what sounds good on like a jukebox, right, Tim?
Mm-hmm.
That layering, his music works so well for that, even though it was pre that term.
Exactly, and the sad thing is we lost Buddy Holly when he was so young, and that famous air crash, the day the music died, was when it was the Big Bopper, and I can't remember who else was on that, but it was a whole load of musicians all died because they was on a package tour at the time, and it makes you wonder what else Buddy Holly would have done if he'd have carried on. You know, would he have been as big as Elvis or something like that? You just never knew.
Well, it's Richie Valens is the other one you're trying to think of.
That's the name I was looking for.
Which is another famous person that I don't know what they would have done, because he's a great singer too. But yeah, no, I actually think he would have become a pretty major factor because his voice was just so good. And for the short time that he was an artist, he had a lot of hits very quickly. Like I think you could have seen somebody that would have seen, like we joke about those certain artists that they are the spectacle that is them, like Cher, Madonna, Elvis, Prince, you know what I'm saying, Elton John, those people. Like he would have become the spectacle that was Buddy Holly. And the fact that he had those glasses gave him a cool look. Like it worked so well. It made him stand out. Because like when you think of an artist who wears glasses, what's one of the first person that come to mind? Buddy Holly. His glasses were so distinct.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, he was the first person I picked. But yes, I think he has a gorgeous voice. And I love the way it sounded just in general. Sadly, him and Richie Valens. I mean, I like Richie Valens too. But there's the whole movie about all of them that passed away in the plane crash, sadly. Mm-hmm. Well, that was a sad ending to that. All right, back to something that's not necessary. Well, this is not any better. I just realized the next song's pretty dark too. So this one is it's Bono because he wears glasses, but U2 obviously. Mm-hmm. It's Sunday, Bloody Sunday. So I don't know if that's going to bring up the spirits.
I don't think it's going to raise up the spirits because it was about a massacre in Derry in like 1972. Yeah, I was saying,
wasn't it about a massacre or something? But it's a cool song.
Yeah, it is a cool song. The problem, of course, is that song has been partridgeized by a scene in I'm Alan Partridge.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because when Alan Partridge says, "Oh, it really encapsulates a Sunday," he said you got to do the washing and wash the car and the kids running around and read the papers and oh God, it's Sunday, bloody Sunday. And then the Irish guy says, "You do realize that's about a massacre?"
Yeah. I didn't even think about that when I put that in this episode, Tim, but okay. Well, I like the song. I don't know if cool is the right way to say, but it has a nice sound. And there's been remakes of that song, I'm fairly certain. I don't think U2 is the only version.
No, it's an iconic song in the U2 catalog, and I'd be surprised if someone hadn't covered it, to be honest.
I want to say there was an early 2000s like pop punk kind of band that redid it, with that kind of dramatic alternative sound. Sunday. But yeah, I will say I picked that one because Bono has very distinct glasses. He's always got very distinct glasses, though I wasn't 100% sure if they're prescription or if he's wearing sunglasses half the time, but apparently they are prescription.
I think because he's a rock star, even if they're prescription, they are dark sunglasses. Kind of especially around the era of Actung Baby. When he had that song The Fly and he had like those fly glass type things, and that was very much a look. Yeah.
Well, I have confirmed they are prescription if anyone was wondering. He just wears them tinted. Ringo also does the same.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're a rock star, you have to wear sunglasses all the time, even if it's not practical. I mean, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I'm rock star enough to wear.
So you're not going to wear your sunglasses at night?
No, I don't know. I think I'm going to.
Maybe it's because of all the lights in the concert venue. Like, you know how when you go to a concert and there's the stage lights and they're flashing around the whole time? Maybe that's part of the reasoning.
Yeah, but I mean, I've been under professional stage lights many times, and I can't say that I've necessarily felt the need to wear sunglasses.
Well, maybe you're not Bono, Tim. I don't know. Tim's I can confirm I am not Bono.
Well, I can rock with the best of them. If you want me to rock on an outdoor stage in a brewery in Salem, I'm your man. But maybe I'm not quite as I don't have the rock kudos that Mr. Bono has. I forget what his real name is. It's Paul something.
I've heard it before, but I don't know. That guy from U2 who wants to help people in the world. Gosh darn it. Okay, so the next one, Tim, is an artist that we've talked about many times that I think will lead into this. But I picked that's not what I wanted to pick. I wrote the wrong name down, but I know what I wanted to pick. So it's John Lennon. I think you've heard of him. I think he wears iconic glasses. It's the Working Man song. I don't remember what I wrote the wrong name down. Is it Working Man? Is that the name of it?
Well, it's Working Class Hero.
That's what I was trying to find. I wrote the wrong name down for some reason on my list. But yes, Working Class Hero is one of my favorite songs by him. I think it alludes to, if you've ever listened to it, because it's not one of his most popular songs, I don't think, Tim.
No, it's very much a iconic cult song, but it's certainly not Imagine or anything like that. It's in the same kind of era as Cold Turkey, where maybe a casual Lennon fan wouldn't necessarily know it. But it's for fans and for a lot of people, that is an incredibly iconic Lennon song.
Well, and the meaning behind it is so, I mean, I don't know if I find it, some people find it as a protest song. I don't find it as a protest song. I find it more of the commentary on social classes as a whole. So if you've never heard it, it's very deep. It's basically talking about, they put you in class, they teach you direction, they hold you to a standard, right? They don't let you do what you want to do so that you become a working class man one day. And I feel, and I could be wrong, that probably played very well into the working class people in England type thing, maybe. I don't know, but that's kind of what I thought. I don't know a whole lot about England, but I get that perspective. So that's what the song's about if you've never heard it.
Yeah, and and going back to his glasses, do you know what's very interesting about his glasses? Is the little round, what you now know as John Lennon glasses. At the time, they were NHS glasses. So in England, there's obviously a lot of our listeners are from the UK that know this, but if you don't know this, it's socialised healthcare. So you pay some money out of your regular taxes, and healthcare is effectively free. I mean, there's some things there's prescriptions you have to pay for and things, but effectively your care is free. And for certain people, they qualify to have free NHS glasses. And the particular ones that John Lennon had were the NHS issue glasses, because he had them, before he was a Beatle, as it were. But I think that round design that he had, but I think he just liked it and he kept on with it.
I mean, it gives him a iconic look, kind of like I was saying with Buddy Holly, and now they're popular again. Now, I will say, have you ever heard about the controversy behind the Working Class Hero song?
No.
So it's on the Imagine album, John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band, and it was produced by him, Yoko Ono, and then actually Phil Spector, which I was not aware of. I didn't know he was producer on that.
Okay.
Anyway, which now he's like in jail, I'm pretty sure, but whatever. So
he died a number of years ago.
Did he die? Wasn't he in jail for a long time or something?
Yeah, he murdered people. It was terrible.
Yeah, it's bad. He had really big hair too. If you didn't know, go look up Phil Spector's hair. You'll thank me later. Anyway, not like that compares to him murdering people. You're like, he murdered people, and I'm like, and he had big hair. Like those two statements are synonymous. Okay, his hair was full of secrets. Anyway, so apparently in 1973, I had heard this once before. And when I was looking up for this episode, I looked up this thing. U.S. Representative Harley Staggers heard the song, which includes "Till You're So Blank Crazy You Can't Follow Their Rules" and "You're Still So Blank Peasants as Far as I Can See," right? There's a word there that you can go Google yourselves, friends. Give it a goog. On a radio station, WGBTB, and lodged a complaint with. So in America, there's one certain word that starts with an F that you can't say. Look, it's a big deal. So he lodged a complaint with the FCC, and the manager of the station, because they didn't try to edit it or anything, they just let it play. Ken Sleeman faced a year in prison and a $10,000 fine, but defended his decision to play the song. He said the people of Washington, D.C. are sophisticated enough to accept a four-letter word in context and not be offended or upset. And eventually the charges were dropped. Other U.S. radio stations like Boston's WBCN banned the song for that word. In Australia, the album was released with the word removed. And the lyrics were actually censored on the inner sleeve. And America release of all the lyrics of the songs were printed clearly in the inner sleeves as they were sung, including the words. So they did let it show up on the album in America. Apparently in Australia, they removed it. But I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's I'm surprised because, I mean, even now, US media is very conservative. I mean, like, cable is a free for all and streaming is a free for all, but sort of open broadcast media, like your NBC, CBS, ABC, and then all the stuff that comes over your radio dial, is so incredibly censored. It's really surprising compared to like what UK TV is, where UK TV, all the broadcast channels are like HBO after 9 o'clock. It's like anything goes.
Yeah. Well, and there is a thing called like the primetime hour in America where certain things are allowed, but even that specific word, and me and Tim don't want to get banned, so we're not going to say it. And this is a PG thing. That specific word is not used regularly in any type of American broadcast. It's just one of those words that we have generally not been okay with for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into your thoughts, beliefs on it, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Now, I will say I kind of respect him for at least standing by, you know what I mean? Because the whole point of the song, it has a point he's trying to make. And I'm sure that's what the guy was trying to make by playing it. But yeah, there you go. I'm surprised that Australia removed it. Are they particular about that kind of stuff in Australia?
I don't think so, no. And certainly my experience of spending time, 2 weeks in Australia and knowing people from Australia, I don't think that would be a thing. But then again, that was a long time ago. And, things that are acceptable change and tastes change. So I don't know.
I don't know. So, I mean, I can't tell you, but there you go. So that's the weird controversy behind that song. I mean, if you've never heard it, it's definitely worth a listen. So my next artist is Roy Orbison. If you're not familiar with him, I can't say his name very well. Orbison.
Roy Orbison.
Yeah, what Tim said. And I picked this song, and this is strictly purely because I remember my dad had his tattoo. It's Only the Lonely.
Yeah, now that is an absolutely fantastic song. I mean, Roy Orbison had a most amazing voice. Mm-hmm.
He's another one that I think could have gone and done big things.
Well, I mean, he was releasing songs up to the 80s. I mean, he famously covered Cyndi Lauper's "I Drove All Night."
But I wonder if it was poor producing or something. Like, I just don't feel like he gets the credit he deserved.
No, to me, he's an icon because I love his music and I'm familiar with his music. But like you say, I don't know whether he has that same kudos as you said before, Buddy Holly, or as I mentioned, Elvis, or people who are in and around that similar era.
Well, and Only the Lonely was also a movie in the early 90s in America. But I don't know if that song was featured in it or not. I think it was, because I think it's named after it, which I have never watched that movie, Tim. I can't tell you what it is. I just know it was a movie.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I do know an interesting fact about Roy Orbison's glasses. He famously, whenever you would see Roy Orbison perform or otherwise, he would have, sort of Ray-Ban style glasses, which was his trademark. But they were dark glasses. They were sunglasses, full-on sunglasses. Yeah. And that was his trademark. And the reason was he was incredibly short-sighted, and he went out to play a gig early in his career, and he left his regular glasses at home, and all he had with him were his prescription sunglasses. So he went on stage with his prescription sunglasses, and the legend was born.
Interesting. So yeah, because I mean, they're very distinct. Like, they do look like they're just like the Ray-Ban sunglasses. So here's my question, Tim. Do you think of Roy Orbison as a pop artist or a country singer?
I would think of him as a pop artist. I mean, I wouldn't really say country, no.
So, of course, Only the Lonely was definitely a pop hit, I would think. And it did become number 14 in America and apparently number 1 in the UK. So it's even more popular in the UK. But I would say it was pretty popular here, too. But he apparently has a lot to do with country music as well, which I didn't know. And he even he appeared on American Bandstand and toured the U.S. for 3 months nonstop with Patsy Cline, which is a known country singer. I think he maybe, because he has that kind of bluesy doo-wop kind of sound, or the arrangement of his music, it kind of borderlines maybe, but he is from Nashville, so maybe that plays into it as well. I was just curious what you thought.
Yeah, maybe it does. I do have a vague Roy Orbison connection. This is very tenuous, but okay. I do have a Roy Orbison connection. So back in the sort of mid to late 80s, I used to listen to Capital Radio. Now, Capital Radio still exists, but they've moved on to more of a dance house programming, but at the time it was the pop station in London. And they used to have DJs in the evening called Pat and Mick, Pat Sharp and Mick Brown. And now I was a big fan of this show, and I used to play lots of good new music, and I was really into it. I did phone-ins and things, and I phoned in a few times and won some things. And anyway, it's a whole thing. But I once phoned in, and I think you had to identify a song or something like that, and then you won I think you won a T-shirt. I think it was a Pat Sharp and Mick Brown hot rocking T-shirt from Capital Radio.
That's a very specific thing.
Yeah. And the song was a Roy Orbison song.
Look at you, Tim. What was the song? Do you remember?
To be honest, I can't remember it now. It was not. Actually, no, I remember. It was the B-side of You Got It. That was it. They played B-sides. So You Got It was the track that was in the charts. And then what they would do is they'd play the B-side, and then you had to identify it and then say what the A-side was. So I recognized the voice as Roy Orbison, and I called in because I knew that You Got It was the track.
Look at you, Tim. I picked that song because my dad had an Only the Lonely tattoo on his arm when I was a kid. And I never really knew what it was about. Well, when I was younger, I remember questioning about it. And he had it was like a little thing of dice above it. And then it said Only the Lonely underneath it in like quotes or something. And he told me it was a song. And then from there, I went and looked up the song. So I was little, I was probably like 7, 8. It wouldn't have been like Roy Orbison was on my big list. But yeah, so that was so I used to see that tattoo. I don't even know if Dad still has. My father has enough scars that he's basically a scar at this point, and I can't even tell you if the tattoo is still if you could visually see it anymore.
Well, yeah, because when you said he used to have it, I was like, well, did he get it colored over or?
No, he just has my luck and a combination of things. But it was on his arm. He has one on his arm. He has one on his back. Well. Okay. He's going to get mad at me for telling this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway, Dad. Don't come for me. So he used to have his ex-wife's name on his arm. Right on his arm. So this will explain to you why I can't tell you if Dad still has the tattoo or not. So the one that was on his arm, my dad was married for a very short amount of time before he married my mother. They've been married for years. They're together now, blah, blah, blah. Well, his ex-wife's name was Anne. So Dad was working on a vehicle. I don't remember exactly what he was doing. Something with a radiator. Well, Dad... And he said to himself, he knew better. And have you ever did something to him and you're like, I should have done that. That was stupid. I knew better. He knew better. A bubble popped up on the radiator. It was radiator fluid. That was very warm. But for some reason, he couldn't fight the urge to not pop the bubble. So when he popped the bubble, the radiator fluid went all up his arm and it scarred over his tattoo of his ex-wife's name.
Oh, goodness me.
So you can't see the tattoo anymore. And my mom was like, well, you finally got rid of her. So Dad has had weird stuff happen like that. And I don't know if Only the Lonely still shows. Can't tell you.
I tell you what, for next week's episode, I think you need to check in and see if it's still there. Maybe we'll put a picture of it on the Instagram. I don't know.
Dad, do you still have your dice at Only the Lonely? You'd be like, that's a random. Then he had a little skull on his back. But anyway, so with that being said, Dad may or may not have an Only the Lonely tattoo. But yeah, that's a funny story of how he got rid of his ex-wife. And it was one of those really kind of cliche. She's actually really nice, and they're still in contact. She's not a bad person. It's just funny. You know what I mean, Tim?
Yeah.
And so, those, on all the old school tattoos where they have, that banner. It's like a little banner with the little thing.
Yeah.
That's what it was with her name on it.
Well, if you still had it, what it seems to be is that, the quality of the inks way back when wasn't as good as the inks that they have now. And you notice a lot of older folks who had tattoos, they just turn into this greeny splodge.
That's what I was going to say. It also could be the Only the Lonely is faded now because I can't. And I don't know if my father got them professionally done. I'm just going to tell you. So I don't know where these tattoos came from. Dad was in the military and stuff like that. So I can't tell you where he got the tattoo. So I don't know what the quality of the ink that was going into his body was.
I used to work with a chap who worked in the prison system. And he was telling me that it's very common in prison that prisoners want to tattoo love and hate on their knuckles or on the top of their fingers. But he said what happens is, he said, they typically use things like Bic pen ink and ink, stuff that you're not supposed to use for tattooing ink. and they underestimate how much you need. So he said there's a lot of people in the prison community who have love and hat written on their hands.
Or loaf. But yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, and I would imagine there's probably chemicals in Bic pen you're not supposed to put inside you. But at that point, do they even care? Probably not.
Exactly. But he said it was very common to meet folks with love and hat.
Interesting. Well, maybe they love hats. All right. So the next one.
I don't know.
The next one's a little bit of it's from a band. This band was popular in the UK. I do know this band, but I will say they were more popular in the UK. So Tim will probably be more familiar with this than maybe some of our American listeners, but it is Jarvis Cocker from Pulp. And it's Common People. It's the song I picked.
Oh, this is a great track. Pulp. I think they're still going. I assume they still are, but Pulp, certainly when I was listening to new music in the 90s, they were a fantastic band. But Common People is probably their most famous hit. And it was famously covered by William Shatner.
Yes, and that is actually something I've seen too. And he doesn't do a bad job. I mean, it's okay. It's William Shatner. I don't know what to tell you, but it's not terrible.
Yeah. And Jarvis Cocker famously, I don't know if you've ever seen the footage, but Michael Jackson appeared on the UK Brit Awards. And the Brit Awards is like the Grammys, if you don't know what the Brit Awards are.
Yeah.
And he was singing Earth Song. And he had this whole massive production. There was like backing singers, and there was kids, and there was like scenery and lightning and lights and the whole
Very
thing.
Michael of him, yeah.
Yeah. A huge, massive production. And
Okay.
I think Pulp were performing on the same bill, or they were picking up an award or something like that. And Jarvis Cocker was having none of this nonsense. And he like stormed the stage and just like making funny motions.
He kind of seems like that guy from what I get from because I can remember the video. He's like, I mean, I think he's like singing in front of the band. It's kind of cliche, but he's got like that maroon jacket. And I get the theory just based off the video is a cheeky person. I
think so. There was a UK game show called Shooting Stars, which is featuring Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer. And he appeared on an episode of that, and he was very good on that. Because he's one of these people who's not necessarily funny, but he's like some of the things he says you have to think about a little bit, and he's very insightful in that respect.
Yeah, and I think his time, like I imagine him. I see what you're saying. Like you think about it, you're like, okay, yeah, that is kind of funny, or oh yeah, that makes sense, but he has comedic timing too. Like, you know, the timing of it, that sometimes people don't have to be overtly funny to be funny, right? Like I say stupid stuff and I'm sure sometimes people are like, she's ridiculous. And sometimes they laugh, but there's people out there who can use comedy, very witty way. And that's what I get from him, from what I've seen on TV and stuff. But they are known as a band in the US, but I don't think they were as popular as they were in the UK.
Yeah, I think it's more of a UK phenomenon. It was around that Britpop era as well. I mean, I wouldn't call Pulp Britpop necessarily, but it was that kind of era. Like
early to mid 90s type time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I picked that song because I do like that song, and I've heard it a few times, and he did wear glasses. That's it. That's the only reason. All right. So the next one. Okay, so the internet says he wears glasses, but I don't know that he always wears glasses. So this one's a little bit of a... I might have Googled artists who wear glasses in order to figure out things for this episode, just to give you guys an insight on the hardcore research that I do around here. So the next one's Ozzy Osbourne, and it's Black Sabbath, of course. And I picked War Pigs.
Yes, so Ozzy Osbourne, I think he does wear glasses, so I don't think he wears glasses on stage. He takes my lead there, because I don't wear glasses on stage.
John Lydon like glasses most of the time, right? Like the circles.
Yeah, and I think if you see Ozzy not being Ozzy, just being John, which is his real name, he probably does wear glasses. I will tell you an interesting thing that I found out about Ozzy Osbourne. Okay. So, as I may have mentioned on a previous episode, I've started subscribing to Peacock, which is a streaming service here in the United States, which is owned by NBC. And I got it because they have the WWE WWF network. I felt like reliving my my youth by watching classic era professional WWF wrestling. I thought I need me some Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man Randy Savage and all that kind of nonsense. So I've been very much enjoying that. So the other day I was watching WrestleMania 2, which is classic. There's a half wrestling, half boxing match with Mr. T and Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Well, that's a lot.
Top quality entertainment. But anyhow, in the corner of Mr. T was Ozzy Osbourne.
That's so random. That's very random. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't shock me, though. I kind of feel, and I know this is bad because he's obviously not always been on the straight and narrow, and there's a lot to unpack with Ozzy Osbourne, but I feel like he'd be a fun guy to hang out with.
I think so. I think if
he's down to earth.
Yeah, I think if you hung out with him a number of years ago, you'd likely to get arrested.
Yeah, probably. I just mean now that I think he's slightly sober. I think he's like kind of gotten away from that life, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's suffering from some real health problems in his later years. But yeah, I think if you had a conversation with Ozzy, it's going to be pretty much straight and down to earth.
That's what I'm getting. But I also, sometimes when I hear him talk, I don't actually know what he's saying. So that might be up for debate too.
Yeah, I think he has health problems, which is making his speech worse. But also he spoke with a sort of a Birmingham accent as well, which may have been hard to understand for some folks.
Yeah, he does have a very strong accent. And so that probably contributes to it, but a combination of health problems. But I do know one cool fact about Ozzy myself, Tim. Did you know? So apparently Ozzy Osbourne had a fan in First Lady Barbara Bush.
Really?
Yeah. So President George Bush, her son, was once in presence of Ozzy and said, "Did you know that my mom loves your stuff?" So there you go. I thought that was really random.
That's really cool. I know one Ozzy fact that when he was on tour in San Antonio, Texas, he relieved himself. Well, the story is up the side of the Alamo. That is not actually correct. Outside, I've been to San Antonio, and the Alamo is there. And then, like, just sort of across the road a bit is the Cenotaph, which is like a war memorial, which speaks about the battles that went on at the Alamo. That is where he relieved himself because he didn't know.
Well, then, okay. Well, that's a lot to unpack. He's banned from Utah still. We talked about that on the podcast. He still can't go back to Utah because he likes to eat the heads off of bats.
And then the famously when the cop arrested him, said this, what are you doing? What'd you do is up the side of Buckingham Palace? And he said, I wouldn't give a blank, mate.
I was saying, we probably wouldn't care. Not the right person who would care. That's fantastic. That's a great story. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, it's true. So I when we went to San Antonio, I had to look it up because I wanted to know exactly where this happened. I wanted to go there.
The only reason Tim wanted to visit was for this reason and this reason.
I mean, the Alamo was cool. It was very historic, and we found out about Phil Collins and all that kind of stuff. But I needed to find out. I needed to get to the bottom of the Ozzy Osbourne story.
Hot pressing information right there. All right. So the next one is a female artist. It's Lisa Loeb, and it's Stay, which I have a funny story about this. I was preparing for this episode on my lunch break today, and Charlie was waltzing around the kitchen, and I played the song Stay, you say, whatever. Very famous song. We've all heard it a million times. And he was sitting there. I was just reminding myself of all those songs before we went on the episode, like you do, because I do my research. But anyway, so I was playing it, and I kept singing it. Well, Charlie must have forgot that I played it. And he's like, you can't have that song in your head. I have that song in my head. Stop stealing it from my brain. I was like, I just played that song 10 minutes ago. He goes, oh, I thought I heard it in the car. So there you go. Hot off the presses, everybody. That happened today.
Well, the thing is like about Lisa Loeb, I mean, she's a fantastic singer and done some great songs. I think in later careers, she got into writing music for children. That was like a niche that she's explored. But her glasses are so iconic. Like when you couldn't think of Lisa Loeb without those glasses. And in fact, now she has her own glasses line. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. I know Elton John does. Did not know about Lisa Loeb.
Yeah, she had those very iconic style glasses that she wears. She has her glasses line. And did you ever watch the Sarah Silverman program?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It ran for 2 seasons or 3 seasons or whatever it was.
And it was pretty funny.
Yeah. And there's an episode in it where Lisa Loeb is featured. And I think in the episode, Sarah, being the character Sarah, wants to be a singer or wants to be a singer-songwriter or something like that. And somehow Lisa Loeb gets involved. And there's this scene where, like, her glasses magically kind of, like, disappear off Lisa Loeb's face and then get put on Sarah Silverman's face. And at that point forward, she has all the talent and can sing and can play. And it's really funny. But even, like, back then, Lisa Loeb was understanding that these glasses are so iconic to her character.
Well, and they're very distinct. They're very boxy. They're very black. You know what I mean? She has a very distinct look with her glasses.
Exactly. Much like me, my glasses look is very iconic. I always get the same ones every time.
Tim's really bringing it home, guys. Now, I do know Elton John, which obviously he's going to come up because we're talking about artists with glasses. You can't leave him out. Spoiler alert. But I do know Elton John has a glasses, he's selling, and he sold them to Walmart, because I was walking through Walmart the other day. When you walk by the little optometry area, there's like a picture of him advertising his glasses.
Wow. I have not gone in Walmart for maybe a year, so I don't know.
Well, now you know what you're missing, Tim.
The last time I went in Walmart, I bought that David Hasselhoff Chia Pet, and I have not returned since. I don't know how long ago that was.
That was enough to terrify you away for you.
I mean, that was maybe, 6+ months ago? I don't know. But that was the last time I went, and I vowed not to return.
Yeah, the Chia Pet almost took over Tim's house. It's probably haunted. Whatever ended up happening, did animals just slowly scurry it away?
Well, so we put it outside in our little backyard, and all the foliage just started to rot and go nasty, and then it fell off.
It was terrifying.
And it was really terrifying. So now the unfoliaged Hasselhoff Chia Pet is just sitting out in our backyard. It was on the grass for a while, and then Hannah made me move it because the HOA grass mowing crew, she said she said it'll go flying or something. So we put it on like the concrete slab, and it just sits there next to that dinosaur thing I had as well.
So I have what's known as tripod phobia. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Tim, where it's like the holes. Like, have you ever heard of tripod phobia?
Yeah.
So Chia Pets are already disgusting to me. Like, so there's this thing where, and it's apparently about patterns. A lot of people have it. It's something about the patterns make you feel sick and kind of icky when you see it. And Tim's Chia Pet took that to the extreme. And I was like, Charlie the other day said something about, we should buy a Chia Pet. And I went, absolutely not. Do you not remember what happened to Hasselhoff? I was like, nope.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen that, we'll make Tim reshare the photo to terrify everyone.
Yeah, you can find my Instagram. It's on there, and I wish I never got involved with it. It was like, gross. Oh, look at this, David Hasselhoff products. I'm going to have to buy this. And then the reality of it was not fun.
All right, we're going to change the subject because now my eyes are twitching. Oh, God. Okay, so the next one is a very iconic glasses wearer as well. It is Miss Janis Joplin, and Me and Bobby McGee was the song I picked.
Now that is a great song. She does wear glasses, but when you're talking about iconic artists wearing glasses, I don't know. That's not a connection I would necessarily make. I don't know. I don't know whether her glasses. I don't know. It's not that for me. That wouldn't be a connection. I
don't think she wears them all the time, and I don't even know if they're prescription. She just stood out to me because they're the big circle ones, and so I've seen pictures with her in it. And I like Janis Joplin, so I mean, I think her hair is probably more iconic than the glasses.
I think so
because of she had very long, distinct hair, and just her look in general. She had a very, I don't want to say hippie because that's cliche, but she had a very distinct look.
Absolutely, And she was very free with her vocal style as well. I think if you look at it on a technical level, it could be considered somewhat sloppy, but it's Janis Joplin, and it's that great sound, and that's the sound that Janis Joplin makes.
But I think it was so raw. It kind of is a playback to what I imagine like original jazz singers and that kind of thing doing.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's bad at all. I think if you look at it in contemporary terms from a technical perspective.
And I once heard someone compare her to, what's his name, Bob Dylan, and I'm like, no, don't do that. No. So, because Bob Dylan is not technically a great singer.
No, but Bob Dylan is not a great singer at all. But Bob Dylan is a Bob Dylan singer. But what Bob Dylan does is write amazing songs.
That's what I say. Bob Dylan is a songwriter first and foremost.
Yes.
But I think Janis was much better singer than Bob Dylan. Because Janis could hold a tune.
Absolutely, 100%. But her voice is so distinctive as well.
Yes, and she didn't follow the traditional sounds that you heard a lot of people on the radio. And that's what I think makes her so cool, is it's very genuine and it sounds great. But I haven't heard anyone do like a great, like people can't cover her music very well because she has such a distinct sound. Like when people make covers of her songs, I just don't think it works. No,
because they're not Janis Joplin.
Mm-hmm. And then, she's got that raspy voice, partially because she probably smoked like a freight train. But, it was fantastic. And I love the song Me and Bobby McGee. And the reason I picked that one is because when I was growing up, my dad liked that stuff a lot. So I heard it a lot growing up. And it isn't a very popish, like that song. She doesn't really sing it in any particular way. It's just her storytelling.
Sure. And it has a key change halfway through.
Mm-hmm. And and I do think she could have, if she had been trained, I think she could have been a very technically good singer because she had the skills. She wasn't trained. She was more of just like that genuine, like I said, kind of like one of those jazz artists. And that works for her. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works very well for her.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want a well-schooled, well-trained Janis Joplin. It just wouldn't be the same.
So the next person is Elton John. I gave you guys a spoiler alert earlier. Mm-hmm. And you can't do an episode about glasses without talking about the person with the most iconic glasses. Exactly. So he says two things about the way he dresses. I don't know if you've heard it. One, he always said, I don't dance. I'm sitting there playing the piano. So I need some way to present my personality, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I started dressing that way. And the other thing is it was just fun.
And that's true. It was fun. And the other thing is that he was looking to distance himself from Reginald Dwight because when he became Elton John and changed his name to Elton John, he was distancing himself from his early days and his early experiences. So he was embracing this new look and this new Elton John character.
And I couldn't see him. My favorite, though, is I still love when he played the Muppets. I absolutely adore that. That was the cutest thing ever. I think Elton John would be a fun person to hang out with. But I also think he probably could be a little bit of a diva, which would probably make it even funner.
Yeah, I mean, in the realm of divas, I mean, Mariah Carey is amateur hour behind Elton John.
Well, I've seen him talk about when he was under some substance abuse problems. He said it was really bad. He's even more of a diva as he's gone clean because he's a very sober person. Did you know that he is Eminem, aka Marshall Mathers, sober sponsor, like Eminem the rapper? So when how like people who go sober, they usually get like a sponsor or somebody they can just call if they're having a rough night or something. Mm-hmm. Apparently that's Elton John to Eminem. I thought that was really random when I found that out. It's cool.
It's cool. I mean, maybe they met when they were both getting help together or something. I don't know.
But I will say what I like about Elton John is he's very open to modern day artists. Like he never has been that kind of guy who's like, I can't stand new, you know what I mean? Like he's willing to collaborate. He seems to like new, like I like his openness and I think that's cool. But the song I picked, because we never even got to it, is a word I can't say is back, because I've told many times, Tim, and there's a story because I said that would be my theme song to my song. So on Saturday night when I was at the park where we were talking about the Village People were, they do drag shows. So the opening drag show was to this song, but it was to the Tina Turner version. Did you even know there was a Tina Turner version?
I did, yes, I've heard it.
I had never heard it. So I'm sitting there and I was like, oh, this is the best song to do like a drag show to. And Jennifer's looking at me and she's like, what is the song? My friend didn't know it. And she was like, and I said, this is one of my favorites, da 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 da. And then Tina Turner starts singing and I went, and I was like, and apparently this is Tina Turner because her voice is, very distinct. And I knew instantly it was her. It was so good. I had never heard it before, but she does a great job on that song. Yeah,
she did a number of covers. She also covered Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love as well. I don't know if you've heard that.
I haven't, but that doesn't surprise me because that's one of my other favorites that's kind of right up there. Those two songs sound like something she would do. Her voice works well for that. That's cool though. And it was funny though, because the next morning And Jennifer looked at me and went, "Did we hear an Elton John song last night?" And I went, "Kind of." I said, "Well, it's his song, but it was sung by somebody else." And she goes, "Oh, for some reason, my phone keeps sending me Elton John." Like her phone had heard it the night before when we were talking about it. So that's why I picked that song. But I mean, I love almost every Elton John song. I even think Philadelphia Freedom is an underrated song.
I like Philadelphia Freedom. That's a good
I
song.
like the beat to it. Like, I like the sound of it. The lyrics are kind of but I like the sound of Philadelphia Freedom. It's very cool sounding. It's an interesting arrangement. I mean, also there's like 1,000 other Elton John songs we could talk about.
Oh, but I like Benny and the Jets. I mean, that is fantastic.
There's a song. Well, you know, in his version of Pinball Wizard.
Oh, I mean, The Who's Pinball Wizard is fabulous. And the whole album is great, but like Elton's version of Pinball Wizard is even better than the original. And it's a cover, and it was for the film Tommy, but is even better.
I honestly believe it's better too. And I mean, his friend Bernie, one of the best songwriters of all time. Absolutely, like he could write. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, I'm still standing. I actually like the version he did of the new song Cold Heart. We've got Candle in the Wind, Tiny Dancer, Nikita, Crocodile Rock is a favorite of mine. The Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So I've said this on one of the podcasts, but I was mad at Tim when I used to work at our old work and they took our copier away to bring it to a different location. And I stuck a sticky note on it. It was a yellow sticky note because it said Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So when they delivered it to the new location, I was there 3 days later and that sticky note was still on there. Nobody took it off. And I thought it was funny. And I was like, dang, that's quality sticky. How did it last?
It's not the stickies that I have in my desk, because the stickies I have in my desk won't stick to anything, and I have to use a piece of tape as well, which sort of it defeats the purpose of having yellow sticky notes. They must be like knockoff Post-its or something. I don't know.
Well, I had the quality one when I wrote Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Little Jeannie, Daniel. I don't know. I could probably be here all day. But I figure since we're Saturday nights, all right. Oh, that's one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, that's a good song. I've played that before. We used to do it in Rough Justice years ago. And that is a really good song. That intro, I don't even know how to do it well. It's so
cool. And then, of course, all the music he did for Disney. And his version of Can You Feel the Love Tonight was the song that my first... Google just heard me if you heard a noise. And he's trying to talk to me about Elton John, everybody. That's creepy and weird. But anyway, but his version of Can You Feel the Love Tonight is the first song there. It finally finished. If you heard the beep again, my Google Home thinks we're talking it. Is the one that I did my first dance to at my wedding.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yep. So that was great because I mean, I love The Lion King. Oh, we didn't even think about Don't Go Breaking My Heart. That's another one.
I mean, we could be here till midnight tonight spooling off great Elton John songs.
Well, since he is the king of wearing glasses, I figure we should name a few extra. I know. And there's probably some obvious one that we haven't said that someone's screaming at the computer right now, Phil. He's like, why haven't you said this song? All right. So my final one, and this is a rare one. Well, not really that rare, but not as obvious as the other songs. It's Slash. But obviously, he doesn't do music by himself. It's Velvet Revolver, and it's Just 16.
Yeah, so I can tell you a Velvet Revolver story. I saw Velvet Revolver in Vegas in probably 2007, 2008, something like that. It was before I lived here. And I met Hannah in Vegas because she was living in Virginia. I flew to Vegas. She flew to Vegas, and I met her there. And we did lots of cool stuff while we were there. But one of the things we saw while we were there was Velvet Revolver. And it was at the Aladdin Casino. When the Aladdin isn't even there anymore, it's now called the Planet Hollywood. And it was a great show because they did Stone Temple Pilots songs. They did Guns N' Roses songs. And they did Velvet Revolver songs.
Weren't they kind of known for that, like doing remakes of other people's music? Wasn't that kind of their thing?
Well, it's because you had Scott Weiland in the band for the STP stuff, and then you had Slash and Duff in the band for the Guns N' Roses stuff. And Matt Sorum was supposed to be the drummer, who was the sort of the last drummer in the classic Guns N' Roses lineup. But I think he'd broken his arm, I believe, and he came out and did backing vocals occasionally. But his drum tech was drumming because obviously he couldn't drum because of his broken arm.
Yeah, you need those arms.
Yeah, but it was cool, if nothing else, to see Slash in real life. It's like, Slash. And I may have told this story before, but for the long-lasting memory of this concert, well, there's two. One, there was some guy next to me who was drunk who welcomed me to the United States.
Okay.
Which was very nice of him. I don't remember his name or anything like that.
Glad we could really welcome you home, Tim.
Yeah, he said, welcome, man. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And in the front row, there was a lady in a pink bunny suit. Now, I'm not talking like Playboy Playmate bunny suit. I'm talking
like a fuzzy bunny?
A head-to-toe furry bunny suit with the ears and the whole thing like that.
Was it an indoor venue?
Yeah. And, it wasn't, baking hot in there, but, I mean, it was not cold. And, like, she's having the best time ever, and she's dancing.
She's sweating like crazy in the bunny suit.
And she was, like, in the front row wearing this head-to-toe bunny suit.
Good Lord. I couldn't do it, Tim. I'm very sensitive to heat. I would have passed out and died. Of course, you know what? She probably been drinking, too, and that tends to make you hotter, so...
Exactly. I mean, she was on Slash's side of the stage, and she was trying to get Slash's attention the whole time.
I just imagine, like, on The Price is Right, when they had the people in the audience wearing the little costumes.
Yeah. But it was like that for a 2.5-hour rock show where she's having the best time she's ever had in a bunny suit. I mean, I say if I'm not criticizing, I hope she enjoyed it, and it was great. But I was just thinking the practicality of being that hot.
I wouldn't have made it. Well, also, like, I'd be worried if I'm jumping around for 3 hours that, like, I would, like, pass out or something or become dehydrated.
Yeah, I wasn't close enough to check her hydration levels to see if she drank enough water. Maybe I should have been more about that and not talking to some drunk dude from Omaha or whatever it was beside me.
If you were that guy in that concert and you now listen to this podcast, please send him a message. Lord. No, I mean, but the thing about seeing Slash in person is he has such an iconic look. It's almost like you would just be like, it'd be very interesting to see him in person because I almost feel like he's like a TV show. Like, you know what I mean? It's not even him. He's almost like an actor or something because he's Slash.
Yeah, because he's got the tattoos, he's got the jeans, he's got black leather chaps, he's got Chuck Taylors, and then he's got some kind of like cool shirt, black type thing, and then you've got the top hat with the belt on it. And it's like, it couldn't be anybody else.
With the hair.
Yeah, and obviously the hair.
And that would be kind of cool because it's almost like I know he's a real person. Obviously I do. But if I saw him in person, I'd be like, whoa, that's actually him. Because it's like, it kind of seems like he's like a TV character, like a larger than life TV character.
Have you ever seen that? Did you ever watch Conan O'Brien when he had the Tonight Show?
Yeah.
Did you ever see the clip when him and Conan O'Brien went guitar shopping?
It doesn't ring a particular bell. I need to go back and watch it now.
So I think it's up on YouTube, or if it's not up on YouTube, it's on like Vimeo or one of those things like that. So Conan did a bit on his show where he went on Craigslist looking for guitars. And it was just like cheap instruments. And it was a comedy bit where he'd go to someone's house. But he took Slash with him.
I say it, Slash walks in with him. Okay.
Yeah, so he knocks on the door. He says, I'm here to look at the Epiphone Les Paul. And the guy says, you can come in. He said, I've got my friend Slash here just to check it out. Is that okay? And the guy's like, what? And then you got like Slash standing in someone's front room with some cheap guitar playing licks on it. And it's fabulous.
I would just be like, well, even if you don't buy it, can I take a picture and sell that?
Yeah.
Make the money off the fact that you sell that with the guitar for whoever buys the guitar in the future. And Slash played on it. So here you go. Here's my photographic evidence.
Yeah, and they ended up going to a couple of hoarder houses towards the end of it. And,
oh Lord! Oh.
And they went to some guy and he opened up his garage and it had a Neil Diamond tour jacket in there, and it's a whole thing. It's hilarious.
That would be. I could see that. Yeah. Well, and like if you didn't have the evidence of the TV show, if you told your friends that, they'd be like, that didn't happen. That was some guy. You know what I mean? Like, that never happened.
Exactly.
And it didn't go out on air for like 6 months. So some guy's been telling all his friends, I'm telling you, Slash played this guitar. And then when it finally went up on TV, it's like, aha! Told you. And then all his friends lost the bet. But don't you have to like sign? They probably would have. So I hate to be the person who spoils it, but don't they have to sign some type of waiver like to be on the show? So they probably like came in, showed them, and then went back and recorded it. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was like a live.
No, it was not live. What you would do is that you would record the bit because you turn up with the cameras.
Yeah.
And then they'd say, no, sorry, no cameras. They'd turn them away. But if they were cool with the cameras, they'd record the bit. Then after the bit is recorded, you'd say, oh, this was so much fun. So glad we could hang out. Can you just sign this release? And you'd have to sign a release. If it went to air, I never saw it. Or actually, I think it did air and I never saw it. Somebody I lived with was on a reality show for learning to drive.
Yeah.
And I gave some commentary on that about the person I was living with and how they was going to be great when they got their license or something. And I had to sign a release for that. And also there was another TV thing I did. It was in actually got two things. There was one where I played in Slough Town Centre, and there was a TV show called Make Slough Happy. Again, I never saw the TV show. It went out on like BBC Two or something. And before we started, the crew got us all to sign a release. And there was another thing with Lee Aaron in the Beer Keller. I think they were featuring him because of his various problems he was having and how he was becoming successful as a drummer. And there was a release for that. And it's just like this boilerplate thing you sign. So
I did two releases. One was for Good Morning America when I was in Canada. The group I was with, they were like filming something. It was when the Winter Carnival was going on in Quebec. And they were doing some type of piece on it. I don't know all the details. But Good Morning America had us do, like where they like have like the students like lean in and they all smile and they're like, Good Morning America. I did that, which I never saw if it ever got, I don't know if it ever got released or not, Tim, but I might have been on Good Morning America, but we had to sign for that. And then there was another time, and I'm still convinced that this was fake. And now as an adult, it sounds kind of creepy. It wasn't as creepy in the moment, but me and my twin sister were at a camp. It was called Camp Dickinson. It's down in Galax. It doesn't matter. It's just a summer camp we went to. Well, there was a guy there. He was a photographer, and he did like the photography for like books, like you put it in like textbooks and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said they're always looking for twins because I'm a twin. I don't know if I've ever said that on the podcast. I'm sure I have many times. But if you didn't know, Joy is an identical twin. Well, we don't know that for sure. It's up for debate. But anyway, I'm a twin. And he said, well, let me take a few photos and then I will send the release to your address. And it wasn't creepy photos. I mean, it was just like us standing there. There was like one in front of the cabin. But my parents never got the release. So I still to this day don't know why this old man took photos of me and my twin sister.
See, my 2022 adult brain says that's dodgy.
It is dodgy, but I was 8 at the time and didn't know anything. And I mean, there was nothing weird about the photos. Like, I think there was like one of us sitting and one of us standing. So it wasn't like that weird. And maybe it was legitimately, but now I'm like, he's like, here, what's your address? Which dumb 8-year-old me just gives him my address and took a photo of me. And he took it. And then he was like, I'll send your parents the release to put these, and now I'm like, and this is how I could have got kidnapped or something.
Yeah, it sounds suspect to me, Joy.
It's a little sus. It's a little sus, Tim. So I don't know whatever happened with the release there, but true story. Brady can tell you that happened because like one time. So sometimes me and my twin sister will think back because I don't know. Have you ever heard of kids making like fake memories and stuff? Like they think things happened, they didn't actually happen, things like that. So like one day I was looking at Brady, I was like, did I make that up? And Brady was like, no, that happened. And I'm like, you realize that was creepy? And she was like, yes, I do. Like, anyway. And with that was my last, we did not talk about the song at all, but we talked a lot about Slash. That was my last Glasses artist. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Tim?
The only thing I'd like to close the episode out is be kind, everybody. Just be kind.
And bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.